Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association, Reasonable Doubt. Today we have an incredible show lined up for you because anytime you're in the presence of Mr. Murray Newman, you're
Nerd Murray.
It's gonna be a good time. Murray.
JV, how are you?
Oh, good.
Thanks for having me back, man.
Oh, back. This is I still remember. Like I still feel you here, man.
Yeah, me and Todd used to do this, but that was like 10 years ago.
Speaking of someone younger than you.
Not Todd. Todd's older than me. So.
Host of this show, Mr. Damon Parrish II.
The one and only.
The sequel.
Here he comes.
Second better than the first.
And to always be impressed with the amazing advocate, Allison Mathis. Hello.
Hello.
So what I was told, I got an email that said, Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association, Vice President. And quite frankly, both of you should be presidents, need to be presidents. What do you think?
Absolutely. We need more people. I mean, otherwise you get me.
I would follow you anywhere.
I appreciate that, man.
I would follow you
everywhere.
Not
well.
No.
Not everywhere.
Few places. Most places.
Most places.
Most places. Most places.
I respect that.
Both. It's an amazing because we're sitting at a round table with Murray Newman, Damon Parrish, Allison Mathis, some of my friends that I've known when we've all known each other for more than a decade. Oh. It's amazing. Host, director, former head of Palau Federal Public Defender's Office, now chief operating lawyer of a nonprofit. Damon Parrish, killing it. Murray Newman, killing it. And I got an email saying, Vice President, Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association, the largest local bar association in the country, with the best lawyers in town. We got New York, LA, Houston, Chicago, top of the top of the top, 5 and 4, Vice President of the one and only Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association. That's amazing. Are you kidding me? It's like, oh, do I want, what kind of milkshake do I want? Like chocolate or vanilla? Or
Obviously chocolate.
Well, there was no subliminal there, bro. I was just like, do the best options.
There's no question about it. You always want chocolate.
Oh, we want that Damon chocolate. And speaking of Damon chocolate, I'm going to hand it over to Murray Newman, who's going to moderate this debate. Murray, why don't you? I'm done.
So I agree with you. We're lucky to have two fantastic candidates who are vying for Vice President of HCCLA. Allison is currently the Vice President and is running for a second term, and Damon was the Vice President before her. So we have two people who definitely know the job. They know the organization. We would be lucky to have either one of them, and so this is just an embarrassment of riches that we have two great candidates. So you all may have seen a flyer that Allison made with an extremely unflattering picture of myself, not that there are many good ones today. So we're going to ask her the first question, and that is, what is the capital of Botswana?
Botswana City.
That's a lot.
It's so true. I looked it up.
That's right.
What is Botswana City?
Yeah, it's Gaborone, but thank you for playing.
Or Gaborone.
In one word or less, Damon, is the Constitution important?
Depends on who's interpreting it.
Okay. Okay, good answer.
Look at this
good answer.
intellectual.
All right.
Snap. That's
all right. So we do actually have some serious questions that we want to ask the candidates. Since you got to go first on the last round, we'll let Damon go first on this one. And so here's my first question to you, if I can read it. The Harris County District Attorney's Office has recently come under fire for intentionally seeking out pretrial publicity that could potentially poison jury pools. What are some ways that HCCLA could help combat this?
So, that's a good question. I don't know if there's any way we can combat someone talking to the press, or nor should we. But I think the press has the obligation to respond to and show both sides of it. What typically happens is the DA comes out, guns a-blazing on an arrest, and very quiet on a dismissal and not guilty. And I think the press should air both sides of that to show that due process, although delayed and heavily skewed for the DA's office, when proper attorneys work a case, and with the current DA's office, it shows that they're batting 50%, and that needs to be shown, right? And so we need to show not just the arrest, but also the vindication of constitutional rights of innocence and protection of Fourth Amendment and Fifth Amendment and Sixth Amendment rights.
All right. Allison?
I think it's interesting, right? And I think that the answer that the media is going to solve the problem is never going to come to fruition, right? It's never going to be a story that that somebody didn't get convicted. It's going to be a story that somebody was exonerated 20 years later. It's going to be a story that somebody was convicted for a horrible crime. It's never going to be our side is never going to be the story that makes the news, like right. Very rarely. And so I think what we need to do is litigate it. And like, I think that there are ways for us to litigate it without necessarily putting the attorney who is the defense attorney in the case on the spot. And I think the way to do that is through us providing heavy amicus support to a lot of the attorneys in that position right now, and showing the DA that we are a huge organization and we have a lot of membership and we are right about the law on this, and they don't get to do whatever they want. And we also have a lot of people that can influence elections, as far as making those kind of statements to the public and making it clear that what they're doing is wrong.
Is there any teeth, or are there any teeth to amicus?
So I think there are, right? I mean, I think that one of the things that's really fun about writing an amicus brief is that you're not restricted to the facts of the case. You can talk about, and what the court really wants is not for you to write about the facts of the case. They don't want to know that. That's what the advocates of the parties are doing. And so what we can do as amicus writers is talk about how this will impact us as a field, how this impacts our rights, our clients' rights as overall, how this impacts criminal defense practitioners. And I think that courts actually do listen to that sometimes. And I think it's a really interesting way to bring in perspectives that otherwise are, I mean, I can't bring those things up as a party. I can't. It's not relevant as a party, but it is as an amicus brief. And I think that we need to be doing more of that.
Let me ask, Damon, okay, let's talk about amicus. When somebody writes an amicus brief, they're giving their opinion or that particular position. I wouldn't say opinion, I would say position. With so many positions on the defense bar, how would you go about, or how one, not necessarily you, but how should one go about trying to speak for a defense bar?
Okay, so as far as amicus goes, that is a post-conviction relief, and it is a tandem to the actual attorney writing the appellate brief or whatever. I don't deal with that. I deal with frontline. I'm on the ground. Mm-hmm. I fight in the muck and the mud. I fight right in and there. So I appreciate appellate work, and I appreciate amicus briefs and that kind of stuff. I would use that information at the forefront at the time I'm defending my clients. So when we're in court, when we're fighting for the not guilties, the dismissals, the reductions, or whatever, I would use that support then. I would use it in a form of mitigation. If I needed mitigation on the case, I would use it in the form of legal analysis to show that the law being applied to this case is not factual, or it is not correct, or it is not correct as applied to my clients. I would use that to show why I should get a dismissal, why the state can't why the state can't make their burden, or why they've missed the mark on their charge. I do support amicus briefs. I do support appellate work because everything should be peer reviewed. But I use that in my practice at the beginning on the ground level and not after the fact.
As a vice president, as both of you have been, of the Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association, what would your opinion on, I mean, both of you have been there and both of you are coming back. And so as an advocate for HCCLA's values, what are you supposed to do? Write amicus? And I think you should do both, right?
Well, so I think that it's really interesting that Damon's talking about amicus as a post-conviction thing, because it's actually not. It can be, right? And that's how we're most used to seeing it. And I think that it's a common misconception among trial attorneys that, and even probably among appellate attorneys, that that's how amicus briefs are used, is at the appellate court level. You can actually file an amicus brief into anything. You might have to ask consent of the court to file it, but we could be doing it in trial cases, especially a lot of these cases. And there are things that you can't bring in as the party, right? Like I could talk in an amicus brief to the court about why it's not okay for the judge to be, or for the prosecutor's office to be talking to the media from the defense bar perspective as opposed to from the defendant's perspective. And those are two distinct things. And so we as HCCLA can do that. We generally haven't unless we've been asked to participate because we don't want to interfere in the attorney-client relationship and in whatever the attorney's doing.
Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association, if we can put the number up, we're going to open the phone lines, and I'm going to toss it back to Murray.
All right. We have a follow-up question. This time we'll lead with you, Allison. Somewhere 10 to 15 years ago, you had the back-to-back exonerations, to kind of piggyback on what you were talking about earlier, of Anthony Graves and Michael Morton. And it seemed like, at least to me at the time, that the reputation of the defense bar in general was riding pretty high at the time, because we had like, look, this is what happens when the law isn't being followed. And those were two extremely high-profile cases, and I think that it's unfortunate what both men went through, but it definitely helped the defense bar as a whole. It's 15 years later, roughly now. Do you feel we've lost that momentum? And if so, how do we get it back?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think part of it has to do with the fact that a lot of those exonerations were DNA exonerations, and we've kind of run through them, right? I mean, like the amount of cases that we're seeing, the amount of post-conviction cases that we're seeing where people haven't tested the DNA are kind of running out. We've done that. Or the DNA is so deteriorated that they can't test it now. And so we're not seeing as many of those like crazy bombshell exonerations as we saw 10 or 15 years ago when people first started doing all of the DNA work. But I mean, I think that Damon's right about the way we need to frame it when we talk to the media. I think we need to frame it as, like the things we all talk about as a defense bar, the way we all feel about the work that we're doing. Look, this is a constitutional right that the state tried to infringe upon. This is not a procedural technicality that my client got off on, right? I mean, there are ways that we can talk about it that I think make it less scary. Like, I'm not putting sex offenders back on the streets. That's not what my job is, right? My job is holding the state accountable. And we're in Texas. Like, this is supposed to be a state where the government is held accountable. So I think there are ways we can talk about it that are very appealing to the public.
All right. Damon?
I mean, so I don't know how to, I think we use amicus briefs. I think we use the media. Like I said before, the media is going to file what they're going to file, and they're going to show what they're going to show. And it is not fair to our clients and to the world, actually, that what is popular and shown are clients arrested, but their rights not vindicated. Clients arrested, and it's unfortunate that the people who get the most press, Anthony Graves, Michael Morton, had to serve 15, 20, 25 years on death row for their story to become popular enough, infamous enough to where it's okay for media scrutiny, when the client we have that has spent only 10 days or 15 days or 6 months, who's lost also everything, but not that length of time, their stories aren't shown. We can try to publicize it and we can use the media to our advantage, but we can't force the public to see that this is a battle worth fighting for. I don't think we've lost that momentum. I think people today are even more so geared to the idea that the government can overreach, they can overstep, that the defense attorneys aren't evil, and all we're doing is protecting your rights, making sure that before any party puts you in prison for life or for any point in time in your life, that they do what they're supposed to do. And as a vice president of HCCLA, whose bar has been for that goal of the protection of everybody's rights, I will continue to champion that cause and continue to put that mission, as well as the mission of the defense bar that does so, at the forefront and protect those people, Allison, myself, you, JV, who litigate those battles on a one-on-one basis with the support of an organization.
Damon, do you think HCCLA is as strong as it was 10 years ago?
Yeah, why not?
I don't know, I'm asking you.
I mean, so like a chain is only as strong as the weakest link, right? And it ebbs and flows. Sometimes we're great, sometimes we're not. That's a part of life. I don't think we're weak. I don't think we're strong. I would like to continue to make us stronger. And my goal, as part of my current job, as part of my goal as a defense bar, as a husband, as a father, as a VP, is to make the situation better with my work than worse. I want to step in and take where it's at and move it one step further so that when I leave, I can say, I helped make this better, and I didn't take from it, I added to it. I think we can continue to do that. So I don't know if I would say the organization is weaker than what it has been or stronger. I would say I want to take this organization and continue to build upon its foundation to continue to make it stronger and more of a tool for social injustice, for criminal injustice, and a tool for the criminal defense bar as well to keep pushing the envelope forward.
So we've all been members of HCCLA for at least a decade now.
A long time.
At least all. I mean, we're OGs. Murray's an OOG.
He's an OOG as far as lawyer goes, but as far as HCCLA, I got to beat.
Look, we would have gone to high school with Murray. Murray would have been a senior. We would have been freshmen.
No, speak for yourself, sir.
If you want to claim to be older than me, you go right ahead.
So, the thing that has driven all of us together has been HCCLA, and all of us have been members for at least a decade now.
Right.
So I pose the same question to you, Allison. When we first started, when all of us, we've all been members of HCCLA for a decade, at least. Do you think HCCLA is as strong as it was then as it is then or now? Or
I think it's interesting perceptually because, like, when I was a very new lawyer 10 years ago, I thought HCCLA was huge, right? I mean, and they were. I mean, and they still are. But I think that I saw the people who were at the forefront of HCCLA, and they were huge movers and shakers in the courthouse. And so now it's kind of strange to see the people who are the movers and the shakers in the courthouse being the people that we came up with, right? And not the people who were a step ahead of us, like Murray. And so...
Murray. But no, I think that that's a really good point because, like, if you want to talk real OG, you're talking about like Fickman and Troy and DeGuerin and these guys that were out there spreading this message when spreading this message was definitely not cool with the general public. And so we definitely follow in their footsteps, and I think we've got a duty to do right by them. And that's why it's great to have great candidates who are running for vice president to help us do just that.
Do you think, so I'll pose the same, we'll pose the same question that we did to Damon. Is HCCLA as strong? Do you find it as strong? Is it weak? Or where's some things that we need to go?
I think one of the reasons that I was interested in running for vice president under Murray Newman as the president is because he's a fire starter, and so am I. And I want to start some fires. The courthouse needs to be lit on fire.
Love it.
Maybe figuratively and literally.
Yes,
but like...
I thought that went without saying.
It's going to catch on fire on its own.
I know.
Well, look, I'm going to set the...
But don't worry, the asbestos will save us.
All right, this is going to be Exhibit A. Okay, Mark is telling me to send folks to Zoom. Go to Zoom, HCCLA.
Yeah, if you have questions, go to Zoom.
Zoom. We're checking this. Have you anybody got any texts? If not, Murray, you're up.
I have not. All right.
I've gotten texts, but I can't repeat them all.
Okay. So next question that I have, who goes first? Damon goes first on this one, is do you feel that HCCLA is doing all it can to encourage and be an inclusive organization?
Ooh.
You know, so that's a great question. As an organization, I don't know. I think it's up to the individual board members. You know, I was on a board for 10 years, and then I was a VP for 1 year. And I spent those great majority of that time putting HCCLA in every aspect of the criminal justice community I can. Sitting on all the committees I can, sitting on all the board meetings I can, pushing things forth that I can. You know, I worked very hard to where there was a table, we were there. Where there was a talk about how the practice of being a criminal attorney will work in Harris County, if I had the opportunity to be there, I was there. And when I wasn't there and I'd hear about it, I would try to force us in. I will continue to do that. And I think we should continue to do that because we are the engine that runs the criminal courthouse. Every
But
part
do you
of the
feel like
aspect works
we're
for us.
inclusive? Do you feel like we're doing what we need to be doing to reach out to everybody who practices criminal defense in Harris County? And if not, what can we do to do better?
So that question's great. I don't know. I think that there are people, so typically we would divide HCCLA in two categories: those who are true believers and those who it's a business.
Yeah.
And it's okay. And both camps are equally invited to the table in my book. As long as you're fighting for your clients, that's all that matters. As long as you're fighting injustice and doing so fairly, that's all that matters. I think on that front, we've been inclusive. It is hard to get invited to tables that we don't know about, that are excluding us and that don't want us there. And to that front, I think we have historically done our best to make sure that we have a seat there and that our seat is not pro forma or just like a show, but an actual real voice at the table. And one of the things I would like for us to do is to take the voice we have and make it stronger. And I mean, really, really fight and really do things to say, hey, look, we are the engine that runs the CJC. Everything happens through us. And when you want to reset, we got to do that crap. Approaches, we have to do that. If all of a sudden, if you take every party that walks into the CJC by number, our clients represent obviously number one. Next is us. Defense attorneys represent the next largest party every day in the CJC. You can add the DA's office and the criminal court staff and the judges, and they're still less than us. And we need to use that power of number to affect the change we need, both for ourselves, our practice, and most importantly, our clients. And I would like to see us do that more.
All right. Allison, same question.
May you repeat the question?
Yeah.
You zoned out. You're mesmerized.
I was
by-
mesmerized.
I mean, look,
Yeah.
hey, whatever you want, dude, whatever you want.
Is HCCLA a diverse and inclusive organization? And if not, what can we do to do better?
So I think
Point of authority, you said diverse with Allison, not with me. That's not what you said.
that's true. That's true.
Well, okay.
What did he say? I thought he,
He
said
said
diverse.
he added diverse.
Yeah,
He said
diverse.
inclusive.
I added. Well, I thought.
and I think that's a
I
different
said,
question.
Is it,
That's a totally different
okay,
question.
well, that was the
Got
question
out lowered,
that I.
Murray.
Did
that
you-
was the
which-
question I
which word did
intended,
you
and
mean?
then
You mean
it went right
diverse?
over Damon's head. So I decided to specify.
I know the D word, Damon, diverse, dawsome. So
There, oh, there.
Is that D hyphen awesome?
you know what it means.
I love that.
Yeah. So, well, then clarify if I didn't, because that was the intent of my question.
Okay.
And so I was just
If you're
clarifying.
talking diversity, I think especially for the board, we definitely need more people of color and more women. Absolutely, absolutely. And it's not make any knock to white men. It's about, hey, the practice of criminal defense involves
pasty white men.
baldies too.
Yeah, right.
The practice of criminal defense involves people from all walk of life. Those who are white, those who are mostly black,
Right.
those who are men, those who are women, those who speak Spanish, and those who don't speak English. And we need to have all respects at the bar, at our bar, HCCLA, not CHAR, so that we can represent everybody across the board in doing so. And I would like to see us do more, but I will also say this: you can't make somebody participate if they don't want to. I want to participate.
And that was the intent of my question. Is I think that we're not doing that great right now. If you look at all the mugshots of our board and the executive
Tell me
board.
about it.
And so that was the intent of my question. I left out the diversity word, but that was what I was asking. And the question being is, how do you get more people interested from a more varied walk of life?
Well, I think part of it is that HCCLA has a reputation for being kind of cliquish, right? I mean, I think that part of it is just us being more visible in the community and doing more things, right? I mean, I think part of it is us taking more official positions on things, and I think JV is right. Like we do have a fairly diverse body of opinions within the membership. And so I think that's difficult a lot of times. And I think that some of the other, members of leadership in the past have shied away from taking positions when they thought they should have, just because they thought it was going to alienate some of the membership. And I think that's something we have to, navigate carefully, but I think it's something that's important because there are times that I think that we really need to be making a stand about what we know is right for our clients.
How do you feel? I know all of us saying we don't care about the politics and what the judges think, and we're going to say what we need to and stand up.
I think, but I think that to Allison's point is that, when you are at the executive board level, we have diversity of opinions within HCCLA. Yeah. There's a big difference between the views of the public defenders versus the attorneys that do indigent defense with appointments versus the people that only do retained work. Those are three strong categories, and you can pose a question like the PD's office in general or the MAC, and you can get three different opinions on that. And so I agree with you that there is, it's almost basic, your natural instinct to try to sidestep the issue and say, let's all just try to be friends within the same organization. But it is divided. We can't, because we are a nonprofit, we can't take certain political stands on like supporting candidates and things like that. But failure to do so, in my opinion, on topics, we lose some of our oomph on that by doing that. So
and I know a lot of our membership wants to know, like, why can't we take stance on positions for candidates and such?
But part of it is our our tax exempt status. We can't sit there and say, oh, hey, the Green Party judicial candidate is far better and we should support that. We have to be careful or Christina will yell at us, as will the IRS.
Is HCCLA able to support candidates though?
No. Wow. No, we can't be partisan or take official positions. Now, one of the things that I really, really want to do when I take over on May 11th, one of the things I really want to get done is I want HCCLA to do an internal judicial bar poll, like the Houston Bar Association does, because you look at their outcome and you see the newspapers treat it like the gospel, and 90% of those people are civil attorneys that are responding to that, or they're bar members who have their membership paid for by the district attorney's office. Mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. So you tend to see the judges. I laugh about this because I pointed out is that literally you had a guy who was an investigator with the district attorney's office who got a higher rating than Danny Lacayo last time. And Danny, without getting partisan, is a pretty beloved judge. Even I like him. And
it's because he's bald.
Well, that's true. That's true. And he has his ear pierced. But
he's part of the bald coalition, so he has to love him.
But I mean, like, you literally had the Houston Bar Association say this guy who's not practicing law, right, he's an investigator, is a better judge than Danny Lacayo is. I'm like, that shows you how off the rails that poll is. So one of the things I definitely want to try to get done during my administration is I want our membership to have that, to say these are our thoughts on our criminal judges, and we're not going to talk about civil. We'll talk about juvenile, but we will talk about these are our thoughts, but without endorsing, just saying, like they do with the courteous with time, knowledgeable of the law, demeanor, that type of thing. And I really want to get that done, but I think it will also have more oomph to it if we have bigger membership, and that's one of the things that.
Well, speaking of being bigger membership and being inclusive. I think at the courthouse in general, I think we have a good mix of people. I do, like, as far as defense attorneys, there's a lot of Hispanics, there's a lot of African Americans, there's a lot of brown, black, white, Asian, foreign. I don't know. Like, there's just a big mix of people. I say foreign in the sense of, like, there's a big mix of people. How do we attract those people? And we're talking about being diverse and inclusive. How do we bring those people in? Do you have any? I mean, both of you are board members, vice presidents. How do you see that? How do we grow our membership? Granted, the HCCLA is a finite place, and so opposed to either of you, how do we attract more people? And keep them. What says you? Because I don't. What says you, Damon? Oh.
So any organization that we want to attract, we have to work for the people we want. No one is going to put money or stock or time into something they don't want or see the value in. And if we are going to be the largest defense bar in this country and say we stand for defense attorneys and the practice of criminal justice defense and our clients, then we need to be more vocal when we do so. sitting on the sidelines and letting things kind of play out and then reacting to them doesn't encourage people to join. And I agree with Murray, and I agree with Allison also. We have to take a stance, and it doesn't have to be a stance on candidates because we're not going to agree on candidates.
Right.
But I think no matter what, whether you are a defender, a public defender, a court appointed, or retained, we all agree that we're on this same side of the ball here for defense. And we can take issues and we can take stance on issues on that side of defense, and we should do so. And we should do so loud and vocally. One of the absolute benefits of HCCLA is that as an organization, we can speak where the individual attorney cannot. And we can stand up and say, this practice is wrong, where the individual attorney might risk losing money, might risk losing appointments, might risk losing clout or whatever. And so we can stand in and bridge that gap between injustice and our attorneys and our clients so that we can achieve their goals without risking our livelihoods. And we should do that. We have a platform. We have the people, we have the numbers, we have the seat, and now we need to use them, else we lose them. And I agree with Murray. I want to use them. When I was a board member and VP, I did my best to use them. And I sat in meetings all the time where I was the only defense attorney, and I would be like, we cannot do that. And they would look to me and be like, here comes Damon talking again. And that was okay. I was comfortable in the role of being the fire starter. I was comfortable in the role of being the only dissent because I was not speaking for myself. I was speaking for the organization and the defense bar and our clients. And I say we have that platform, use it and expand upon it.
What says you, Allison?
I mean, I think that there are some other things we can do too, right? I mean, because I think that's kind of vague. And I think that one of the things that we need to do is people like food and they like knowing what they're getting what their benefits are, right? Like, I mean, okay, so I was a public defender member for 10 years or whatever. It's $60 to join HCCLA if you're a public defender member, I think.
75.
75 now? Okay. So like, I mean, you know, that's like kind of a chunk of change for me. Like, I want to know exactly what I'm getting for that other than like a bunch of listserv drama, right? And so like, if I'm getting like a distinct motions bank, like the TCDLA app is amazing, right? I mean, like, it's really good. It has the whole code of criminal procedure on it. And like, TCDLA has a pretty solid motions bank. Like, there's no reason we don't have a more solid motions bank other than people just saying, hey, go ask Joe Varela if he has a motion like that, right? I don't want to ask Joe Varela.
Well, I'm not Joe Varela.
You could ask Troy. Troy is obviously.
No, I totally agree. But I mean, like, we have these, like, I mean, there's no reason that I'm having to like search my email for 5-year-old emails from Troy to the old listserv to try to find a motion about something. Like, we can have that.
I just did that.
I know, we all do that,
Yesterday,
right?
I was like, oh my God. Pat sent an email like in 2013.
Oh, I did that too. I had to ask for an expert, and I'm like, hey, Brent, you recommend this guy in 2019. He's still good? You know?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. That's super easy. Like, there's no reason we don't have a dirty cops database. There's no reason we don't have a lot of these things that would be really easy for us to implement, and we already have the technology to do it. It's just a matter of having somebody pull the trigger, right? And those things are distinctly valuable to practitioners who don't necessarily have $75 to throw at nothing.
I think that's a great point. And we do have a lot of stuff. We do have CLEs. We do have, you know, obviously the Christmas party. We have the banquet. We do have those things. But I think your point is extremely well taken. That these are things that we can have as membership benefits. But I also think that we should have membership drives. You know, like give people incentives to like, hey, you know, have 10 people come in. You like if you can bring in 10 new members, we'll waive your fees for this year or something like that to get more people involved.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea too.
All right, so next question.
All right.
Kind of going along with that theme a little bit, talking about the politics of things, is what concrete things do you see HCCLA being, instead of just talking about conceptually, what are some concrete things and examples that we can do to help police against prosecutors or judges who are breaking the rules, that aren't following the code of conduct that we expect them to do? What are your thoughts on that?
Oof, that's good.
So I will say this, the DA's office is not afraid to pull the trigger on ethics against a defense attorney. Right? We as a bar should do the exact same thing. We constantly talk about a prosecutor who's been unethical, hiding evidence, doing that stuff, and all we do is talk about it, and we say, hey, watch out for this person because they're dirty. And that's like where it stops.
We never follow up.
Follow up. And I believe it stops once again because the individual attorney doesn't want to be not say be responsible, but doesn't want to like have that burden of being like that person who grieves lawyers.
Right.
But the organization can do that for us. You can be that umbrella that does that. So when it comes to dirty cops, when it comes to dirty prosecutors, when it comes to dirty judges, we as an organization can take that step because ethically speaking, you don't have to be the person aggrieved to file a grievance. You have to just witness it, right? Or know about it and let them decide it. And we can do that. And I think we should stop, letting bad deeds go and be like, okay, cool, that sucks for you. We put water on this bad deed fire, but it's still kind of flaming over here. And we can speak up and do that. And I think the benefit of HCCLA, just like Allison said, as far as how we should have more, and our website has those things, by the way, but I agree that a app would be better, is we can stand in for the little guy and be that entity that says this is wrong and we as an organization are going to fix it. And don't blame the little guy, blame the organization. As a 600 plus member organization, it can take the heat and nobody cares. As a one person, you can't take that heat, right?
It's
You
a
can't
lot of
take that.
pressure.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And not only do you risk like being outed or whatever, but you risk like future deals with future clients, your livelihood, and I get that. So one of the things I would like to do is be that bridge to fight against that, and let's stop letting bad deeds go unpunished, right? We have a strike force, which I'm a member of, or I was a member, which helped lawyers that were in trouble for whatever reason. The DA's office has no strike force because they don't worry about being in trouble.
Well, they kind of do though. Like their new strike force is if they don't like what a judge is doing, they try to get them removed, which is just absurd to me. Like I have never seen an administration try to remove judges because they don't like their rulings, like the current one we have now. Never.
I agree.
The only time I ever remember them doing the DA's office doing it was when Brian Raines was on the bench and he was refusing to do probations on cases out of his court. Like it was extreme. And in that case, the DA's office was actually being pseudo defense oriented, like you've got to give people this opportunity. But now, I mean, the things that they are doing to try to get rid of judges is absurd. And although we can't be political, there's got to be something that we can do. But their strike force that they're trying to use is the removal process.
And they flex their muscle.
All the time.
And sometimes it works, usually it doesn't, but it will change how a judge reacts.
Yeah.
It will change how they rule. And we have muscle also. That's what I said. You take the entirety of the DA's office and double it, and it's less than a defense bar.
Yeah.
We have the muscle. We have the power. And if we decide to come to court and not go walk over to the coordinator to get resets, there will be no resets. And if we decide not to wait in line next to the jury line to approach the judge on bond, then everything sits down. Right? And so we're the little engine that could. We do everything and we have no say in it. And so we need to take the muscle we have and flex it and let them know as an organized entity that we are here, right? And we will not be abused. And these things we want to change and we want to see some change. And I think we can do that.
Allison, we've talked about some things about flex, amicus, media. I'd like to hear your thoughts on cultivating the flex outside of amicus. What are your thoughts on, and this is from the live wire here online, people are asking, cultivating the media relationships to put it for the flex. What are your thoughts on that and what HCCLA's role should be outside of going into the courthouse and obviously and promoting and supporting the lawyers that go out there and are the engine that drives that courthouse. But outside of that, cultivating, specifically, we're having some chatter about the media relationships to put it out there. What do you feel HCCLA's role should be outside that courthouse in flexing?
So one of the things that I feel pretty strongly about is that I think we need to be I think we need to be producing more written material, right? And so one of the things that I've done throughout my career is write columns for various different publications, and some of them are trade publications, and the audience is other defense lawyers, and some of them are not trade publications, and the audience is the general public, right? And so I think that's something that we can do, and we see Rob Fickman doing that kind of thing all the time, writing his letters to the editor and stuff, and people actually read those, you know? I mean, like, even though his are in all caps.
That's funny. That's good. That's good.
But I mean, I think that's one step. I think the loss of Carrie Blakinger to the New York or to the LA Times was huge for us. But I think we have some other, you know, reporters who are kind of trying to step into those shoes as far as like wanting to cover those same areas. And I know that I've developed some relationships with some of them, and I think a lot of us have also been trying to develop relationships with them. I mean, but I think, you know, I think one of the other things that's kind of interesting about my situation right now is that I'm like kind of uniquely situated because I'm a Harris County criminal lawyer, and so are the 30 lawyers in my Houston office, but we are not practicing in Harris County courts, right? We represent Operation Lone Star cases, and our cases are predominantly in the Valley, right? And so we appear remotely, some of the time, and some of the time we drive down to the Valley and appear in those Valley courts. And so I have a kind of an awesome office full of zealous young attorneys who are Harris County lawyers. They are Harris County criminal lawyers, and they need the resources of HCCLA very much, right? I mean, we're a public defender's office. We're not funded as well as anybody would like to be. We don't have the resources that we would like to have, and we need experience fighting like the hardest battle I've ever fought in my entire life in these courts that are very far away from home. And so, like, I feel like that puts me in an interesting position because I want to advocate for those lawyers in my office who need these resources. And I also think it takes me out of the fray of the Harris County courthouse enough that it's not a problem for me to grieve a judge. I don't care. Like, all I care about is the right thing, right? Because I'm not going to practice in front of that judge anytime in the near future. I'm practicing in front of these other judges who are doing truly egregious things too.
No, yes. Well, speaking of that, Damon, do you about doing the right thing? Both of you have always done the right thing. You're in tremendous leaders.
Well, that's not true.
I have. Well,
Cameras are rolling.
in the courthouse.
The bead of sweat.
All of us have followed you, both of you, in your leadership positions as members of HCLA. But you practice in these courts all the time.
I do.
You, as a vice president, have in the past and will have to, and may continue to, and you, as a vice president, have in the past and may continue to take positions that are unfavorable. Okay, and that might, and so Allison is saying that, you know, she's not gonna have to worry about it because I'd imagine there might be some crossover in Harris County at some point in some regard, but you're there every day. How are you able to, what are your thoughts and feelings about being in that position that you might take unfavorable positions that some would say would be harmful, not harmful, some would be hard in front of the judiciary or the system in general, the machine.
Okay.
Talk to me about that.
So I represent felonies, like all of us, and serious felonies. I take a position where some of my clients are charged with the worst thing we all can imagine you can be charged with.
They don't even put them on movies. Yeah.
It could be a murder.
Yeah, because it's not even interesting. It's just gross.
It's just gross.
Can't talk about it with your family.
Right? And so we come home every day, like, and I don't tell my family I got this person who is absolutely guilty of whatever you think is your nightmare.
Right. And like multiply.
And like also, and I've got some in 5 different courts. If I could stand and represent that person, and I try to, and I think I do, to the best of my abilities, then I can stand with those judges that are my friends and those judges that are not, and still represent the interests that I absolutely care about. I care about all these things right here. And so, like, a lot of times we talk about the practice of criminal defense, and when we tell our friends and family that we do this, they say, well, how can you represent somebody charged with that? And we all laugh and say, easily, because it's not just that person, it's the rights we all enjoy that I'm representing. And those rights mean nothing if they are abridged upon by everybody. Courts, judges, bailiffs, court
comment
reporters.
section of the Chronicle.
Everything, right? Everything. And so can I do it? I have no problem with that. If I can stand by my clients who are charged with those absolutely egregious child sex cases and stand in front of 12 people plus 2 alternates and fight for them, sometimes win, sometimes lose, I can definitely stand in front of a judge. And I've done that before. I stand in front of judges. I've actually been that person in those committees where the judge is saying one thing and I'm like, that's not correct. And we have it out, and then when it's all said and done, either we're still cool or we're not. It's okay, but you stand your ground. And I do believe that as lawyers at this table, we've all done so, I think people respect you when you stand your ground. And when you stand your ground in truth, and when you stand your ground in honesty and not like just being BS-y, then you get respect. They may not like you, but I don't need everybody to like you. In my life right now, there are 5 people I really want to like me. That's my wife and my 4 kids. Now the rest of y'all, I hope y'all like me. I really want y'all to like me, but I need those 5 to like me. And as long as they do, and if they've got my back, I can stand up against anybody at any point in time. And lastly, I would say this, being who I am, I've frequently been the only person in the room. And I've been the only person at the table. I've been the only black guy. I've been that for a long time. I'm very used to being by myself. And if you can't say and do the right thing when you're by yourself, then you can't do it. And I've found myself the only person in that table. I have no problem doing it again.
Allison.
Oh, that was so beautiful.
I know, it's good, it's good.
Cloaked in righteousness, I stand by my wife.
No, it's good though.
No, I know. I'm not being facetious.
I did hear
That was
3 of your
sweet.
kids are voting for Allison, though.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, I have 3 girls, so.
Yeah.
Well, what's
But my boy's mine.
What's funny is when my 9-year-old found out I was running unopposed for president, he goes, the beauty of that is even Kim Ogg has to vote for you.
Yeah.
She's actually not a member, but I appreciate it.
And if she was, we kick her out immediately.
Allison, so you might have been in a position where you're going to be the most rabble-rouser, hated person, fire-breathing human in the courthouse on that, looking at that end. Are you able to do that? You've done it. Both of you
hope
done it.
so.
Talk to me about it. It's coming because, talk to me about it. You able to do that? That's some tough stuff sometimes. You're going to have to take positions and you're going to have to stand tall. And like you have been, you still up for that challenge?
Yeah, I think, when I started in the writs division at the public defender's office, that was like a big question, was like, can you handle being reviled, right? Because other defense attorneys hate writ attorneys, right? We go back and check your homework, and my answer to that is absolutely. If the people who hate me are the ones who are doing the wrong thing, that's awesome. That's my entire goal, right? I never make an enemy by accident. And so I feel very comfortable in that position.
All right, that's great. My next question is, why aren't y'all running for president?
Oh, we're gonna get there. I think we get there.
Because really, I'm not. This isn't a platitude. You guys have some great, not just great ideas, but great energy. And will y'all run? Joe Venus is president-elect, and he was just we're just going to call him Recycle because he was president 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And so these are fantastic ideas, and these are impressive amounts of energy. Would y'all run for president?
Me, myself, I can't see myself doing that in the near future. And that primarily is, you may not believe this, but I like being behind the scenes.
Yeah,
right.
I don't believe that.
I know, right? It's kind of crazy.
Weird life.
Not after your answer to the last question.
bro.
No longer.
And truth be told, everything I ever did for organization, I did it for the organization and the PD's office as well. I just don't want to be president. I like VP. That's the role I want to be. I think I can run for president one day and be good at it. I just don't want to do it right now. I'm a firm believer in going where you feel you need to be and doing what you feel called to do. Yeah. This is where I feel I need to be, so I'll be called to do, and I will only do that. And when I'm ready to take the next step forward, if I ever am, I will do so, but I don't feel that calling right now.
Allison?
I probably would, but I do feel like I think that it's appropriate for me as vice president not to be practicing in Harris County courts, but I think the president probably needs to be practicing in Harris County courts at least part of the time. So that was my reason for running for VP again, was because I'm not in the courts.
Fair enough.
Murray.
All right, let's pretend that you all are president now.
All right.
What is the single most important thing to change about HCCLA that you would like to see changed? And let Allison go first. You always like jump in front of the mic.
You're literally looking at me as you ask that question.
You're closest
right?
to me.
I know. Why are they
right?
doing this? They're setting us up.
I'm
This is
scared
some
of that
bullshit.
feather on your
He looks at
head.
me and says, "Be quiet, let Allison go." All right.
Yeah, so Allison, anyway, the question is,
Unhinge Allison, talk to us, please.
Okay, what should we change?
And just for knowledge, we have 6 minutes. So how about we go 2-2 and then we blast
Oh wait, do
Murray
you
with
have
the
any good
question
like
to go.
last questions? Is that your best
No,
question?
no, I mean, no, I think I led with my best questions, and I was going to, if you all want, would you pose a question to each other if you want that opportunity? I mean, the what would you change is kind of a softball, but do you have questions for each other, you know?
You want me to go first or Allison?
Now I want Allison to go first. It's all about you.
Okay. Do you feel like your role as an advocate for the Public Defender's Office would impact your role as an advocate for the membership of HCCLA?
So me personally, great question. The answer is no, because I definitely think this organization speaks for all of us in the defense bar. I have friends who are defense attorneys who are not in HCCLA, and I clue them into things, and I go to court representing every defense attorney, and by proxy, all of our clients. I don't care if you're in this business because you're a true believer and you want to burn the system down, or because you want to make a buck. As long as you're fighting for your clients and you're putting that effort in to represent your clients, then I will be there with you. Every time I get a text to come to this court for strike force, I'll be there with you. Every time I hear something going wrong, I'll be there with you. I only care that we're in this fight together. And as long as we're in this fight together, we're good.
I guess what I'm asking is if there was a conflict between what was best for the PDO and what was best for HCCLA, the defense bar as a whole, how would you handle that?
Are you asking about HCCLA and the PDO?
Yeah.
You know, that's a good question. I don't know if there's ever a conflict there. Like I said, I'm here for the defense attorneys. We're all defense attorneys. I don't view myself as a PDO different than you with Lone Star, different with Murray as a court appointed, different than one of my good friends, Mark Thiessen, who's purely retained, right? We're defense attorneys, and I myself don't draw a distinction. And I do know that when I was in these organizations and I was at these committee meetings, I never said PDO wants this, but HCCLA wants this. I always said defense bar demands this. We as defense attorneys demand this. We as defense attorneys want this, and that's what I did.
Question, Damon.
Question
Allison.
for Allison.
Why are you wearing your purple feather right now?
That was my question. That was going to be my question.
This is my debate fascinator.
I am fascinated by your
Thank
debate.
you. My red, white, and blue one didn't come fast enough.
All right, but serious question though. How do you feel
No, you already got your question.
Yeah, I asked another one. Man's prerogative.
Wait, who's wait?
It's mine. How do you feel that as a attorney that actually doesn't practice in Harris County, you can represent lawyers that do?
Well, so I'm not sure my job as vice president is to represent them, right? I mean, I think my job is to listen to them and like help aid the president, right? So I'm not sure that I'm in the same role. And I also think that I think that I have practiced in Harris County courts, and I think that I represent a diverse viewpoint as someone who is a Harris County criminal attorney who's not practicing in the Harris County criminal courts, right? I mean, and I think that like I was just saying, like I think that brings some different opportunities for me to expand HCCLA and for me to be able to advocate in HCCLA in a different way and maybe in a more robust way than people who have those Harris County connections.
We have 2 minutes left, and I think it's all fair in love and war. Talk to us about your vision. Come on.
My vision is hopefully that I mean, I know I'm going to offend and tick off some people over the next year, but I hope that we stay on focus. My vision is that we have every bit as much influence with the judiciary, the media, and the general public as the DA's office presumes to have. I'm tired of us being second string when it comes to public opinion. And I think that the way that we do that is we demand it. And I think that cultivating a lot of the things that you guys said are fantastic tonight, but cultivating relationships with the media, finding those moments where maybe you weren't in there for 25, maybe you weren't in prison for 25 years, but maybe you're there for 25 days and you shouldn't have been. And we need to get the media just as outraged about it before tragedy occurs. And I hope to expand our membership. I hope that we have a very inclusive, very helpful organization that is not just helpful to other attorneys, but to indigent defendants who maybe haven't gotten a hold of an attorney yet. I want us to be a resource to people and protect rights. And I want us to be the guys in the white hat for once, and not the villains, not the people that are like, oh, you're a defense attorney and we all know what you do. How do you sleep at night? How do you? I'm tired of those questions. Yeah. It makes no sense to me that when it's the government versus the common man, that so many common men people are ready for the government. That just makes no sense. And we've got to flip the switch on that and figure out a way to make it that when we announce that we are there representing the individual, that strikes with as much importance and fear and empathy as it does when someone gets to say, I represent the state of Texas.
I will say, all of us have been waiting for this. Murray Newman, we follow you.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, and whoever wins this, hotly contested. Clearly bitter, and you hate each other.
We're going to arm wrestle next.
I am ecstatic to work with whoever wins the position, and whoever does not, whoever comes in second, I hope that you will be just as active as you have been.
Absolutely.
Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association, Murray Newman, Damon Parrish II, Allison Mathis, the one, the only HCCLA. Thank you so much for being here. Murray, let's go, man.
Thanks for having us, man. Let's get this started.
Let's do it.
Let's rock and roll.